Hello, and welcome to episode number 25 of Boutique Talk. My name is Jake Boston, otherwise known as Steelbook Obsessed on all your major social media platforms. And if you want to listen to all things physical media related, then you've come to the right place. Every week, I have on a new guest to talk about their physical media journey, and tonight, my guest has been working at Umbrella Entertainment for close to a decade now, mostly on the acquisition side of things, but is now general manager at Umbrella and director at Broly. It is my pleasure to introduce Ari Harrison onto the podcast. Ari, how's it going, man?
It's going great, Jake. Thank you very much for having me. I'm excited to have a chat with you.
I am too. I've had a couple people in the physical media distribution making business, and I always love to pick their brain. But I think you guys have a unique placement in the physical media landscape right now, just because I would say for the past like year and a half, 2 years maybe, you guys are just consistently on a roll and are going higher and higher, at least for me, on what my favorite boutique label is and what they can produce.
Thank you very much. Look, it's been a lot of sort of adjusting from where we were, probably before COVID, and sort of the umbrella loyalist would know that we had a pretty hard pivot at one point, and sort of went, well, let's just go more into the boutique style, find something that works really well for us. Let's really dive in with the creatives and make something, super special and try to be competitive to the world market. Because yeah, it's something that we're super passionate about, and it's just been growing and growing from there.
Right. A lot of your stuff when I first started collecting it a couple of years ago, a lot of it was very like uniform with the slip covers, the blue background and everything. And just to see that the growth from what you guys have, the evolution, if you will, from those slip covers to amazing, beautiful box sets that kind of like go toe to toe with your Scream Factories, Arrow Videos of the world. It's just very, very cool to see.
Yeah, well, exactly that. It started off, Umbrella's been around for I think almost 22 years now, and we started by really just from a DVD distribution company. And the first films that we acquired were classic Australian films, so that's always been our sort of bread and butter, our baseline for the company. And over the years, probably before COVID, we were doing more of just sort of standard Blu-ray releases, and tinkering every so often with maybe a slip cover. And then it sort of got into the slip cover phase, and we had different sort of collections. One was the Beyond Genres collection, and one was the Sunburnt Screens collection. And as that evolved, we realized, well, maybe we should step away from those collections and just focus on the titles and step away from the sort of numbering of those collections, because it might alienate audiences who, are picking up number 17 of the Beyond Genres collection. And then from that, it's like, well, how else can we add in extras? What more can we focus on? Looking at different versions of artwork and things like that. And now it's just gotten into what you may know as like our box set, which has, different artwork, slip covers that go within the box, and art cards and booklets and everything else that we can conjure up to make the best possible release.
But for me, it's not just all the stuff that you fit in that box. You guys, I think what makes you stand out the most to me is that I love physical media, and I love the physical goodies that you can put inside of that physical media. So I'm just going to go and show you one of my favorite box sets that I have in the collection from you guys. Like the first one where I'm like, wow, they are really like doing something different here. That's the This Is Art box set, Terrifier, because it came with so many goodies. It came with like an action figure, and it came with the sunglasses that he wears in Terrifier 2. It's just how I love that you guys are putting the extra effort to make your releases stand out. How did you go about figuring out how to put those little trinkets and physical goodies in your releases? Because not a lot of companies are doing this.
Yeah, well, it was really just about how can we maximize making something special, and how can we do it to a limited degree where we can, sell something that's a bigger scope, with whether it's a t-shirt or a toy or the sunglasses. And from there, just seeing what the audience appetite was for something that's that extra level. And from our side, a lot of the team are, huge collectors and huge fans of certain cult movies. And if you are a huge fan of Art the Clown, why wouldn't, of course, you're going to dive in and buy everything that's related to art. Why not? It's part of the package. And we try to do it at a level that's not like you're paying hundreds of dollars more for that extra edition. And through that, it just tries to be, I guess, more inviting to the audience. And so we look at different ways we can maximize those opportunities. And you may have noticed that Umbrella, we do a lot of our decision making based on pre-orders. So when we do our initial push, we can see, all right, we're expecting this, we've got this many in pre-orders within the first 2-3 weeks. Then we can go, all right, this is how much we expect. And then we sort of cut off the pre-order sections and release section at certain times, and then number them and then move on. So it allows us to be really quite, we don't have to spend so much in terms of making 5,000 art glasses that where 3,500 might end up in the bin because it didn't work on the pre-order side. We can just make sure, all right, we're definitely going to sell this amount. Right. Yeah, we'll over order and try to push through those sales in that direction, just so we aren't losing out on costs. And that's been a big thing in terms of getting the producers and the original owners of the films their approval on certain costs and certain ideas, just because they know once you've got those pre-order numbers, you really can't you can't fall short, essentially.
Well, one where you sold out of a set very, very quickly. This is a recent set. This is the Super Mario Brothers set. This thing is amazing, and I think there's 2,250 copies of the purple one, the Trust the Fungus edition. Yep. Sold out like hotcakes. People this was giving your company a lot of buzz when it came out.
It was fantastic.
It's nice that even though this limited edition one sold out, there is another one that people can get their hands on, which is pretty much the same thing except without the stickers or the film cell.
Yeah, exactly that. And the idea for that was because so many people were reaching out, and then we could see the scalpers on eBay selling it for $1,000, and that's what crazy. We are about. It's not why we do this. And we wanted to cut that opportunity. And there were just so many people who wanted to do it. And usually we have never gone back and gone like, we'll do another pressing, even though we've done it. So that's why we wanted to make it slightly different. I think the booklet as well, the big booklet is not a hard cover, but more of a soft cover booklet. And it doesn't have the stickers. And it's not numbered like the original edition is, but it still allowed the original fans and punters who missed out to actually still get a chance to get it. And to cut away the scalpers, really.
Well, I appreciate that. I mean, we were only 4 months into the year now, and this is my favorite box set to come out so far, like bar none. Really high above the rest, just because this movie has a soft spot in my heart. I loved this movie. It was like one of the 30 movies I owned as a child. I just loved everything, all Super Mario Brothers, and I didn't realize that people hated this movie. So the fact that a movie like that can get a release like this is still baffling to me. And the amount of effort, not only in the physical goodies that are in this box, but the amount of love and care and dedication you did to put the special features that you did in this set, blew me away. There's like 2 documentaries. There's the work print on the bonus disc. There's so much to dig into on this set.
Yeah, well, we worked with the Super Mario Brothers. There was like an archive team. I forgot the name of them. And they were like paramount to this release. They were incredibly helpful. They worked with us every step of the way to make sure this was the best possible release. They were fantastic, and we owe a lot of the success to them, and they were a pleasure to work with. It was, just to make this best possible version. And it originally sort of started because we did the Blu-ray release with the work print. And then we heard of, the opportunity where it was going to go through the 4K release with Pathé, the film licensor, outside of the US, and how they were working on the 4K version. And we were tossing at how we can get further involved with the work print and things like that in that team. So it took a while to get there, but has been an absolute pleasure to work on. And it's one of those interesting points where we feel we have actually a significant advantage compared to any other sort of US distribution companies that focus on these collector's editions is because the rights issues, obviously we're in Australia and New Zealand, and we license Australian and New Zealand rights, whereas the US rights are held up and you know, aren't going to be acquired. I don't know where they are, probably with Nintendo, or you know, whichever studio has got them. And so that allows us a huge opportunity to maximize the potential for the film's release. And you know, even with that, we were very much toying with the idea of how we can work on some figurines, and some merch, but it was like, well, we might get into some trouble with Nintendo.
Okay.
And we, you know, went through, you know, explored that route legally, and we thought, nah, we'll back off. We'll just focus on the physical release. Otherwise, we absolutely would have loved to do some merch. Yeah.
How, like, going back to the action figure, like Art the Clown, do you have, like, how did you figure out a company to reach out to? Like, was this a product that was already made and you had included in this set, or?
Yeah, so it's usually a mixture of different ways we can work on it. I think we had found the glasses were a product that was made because Art just picks them up in the store. And I think we worked with the company who had worked and had a design for Art for the little toy figurine. But now, obviously, we're involved in Terrifier 3, and we're super excited about everything that's going to come out of that. But we're working with that team quite directly in terms of what else we can maximize, especially on the merch side. And so we're going to go pretty hard with the Terrifier 3 collection. There's going to be a lot of fun stuff. We're already tinkering with a lot of different ideas and Christmas ideas, and
that's,
you know,
where my mind is racing
figurines and things like that.
Right, yeah, just having a horror movie set at Christmas, like, that is already like a niche genre that I absolutely love, and I know a lot of other collectors and horror movie enthusiasts love that as well. Having Art the Clown go crazy with Santa paraphernalia sounds absolutely fun.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I mean, already we've been tinkering with like Art the Clown gift wrapping paper and Christmas baubles and Christmas hats and things like that, all inspired by Art. So there's a lot of ideas that we're going back and forth with the creative team behind Art and Terrifier. So it's been a lot of fun so far, and we're gonna start pushing forward with some decisions in the next month or two.
Can't wait to see what you guys come up with. Terrifier has been a phenomenon here in the States. It sounds like worldwide. I'm assuming Australia as well. One thing that I like about the Super Mario release was that it was 4K. And I feel like when you announce something as 4K, you catch the attention of more physical media collectors worldwide than you do just a normal Blu-ray, because the majority, like 95%, 99% of 4Ks are region free. Do you think that's one of the reasons why so many people flocked to this Super Mario set, is because it was a region free disc?
Yeah, absolutely. And as well, just, you know, there are the cinephiles at home that really want the best quality version, and I don't think it's ever really going to get any higher in resolution than 4K. You know, HDR, that really is the sort of top tier you can get, and it's sort of that forever piece that you have of your favorite films, and that's like a huge attraction for a lot of people. And of course, the region-free capabilities that anyone around the world with a 4K system can watch these films. So we are definitely diving in more and more into 4K. Something Umbrella restores and remasters probably up to 20, maybe more films a year, and we're pushing that further into 4K opportunities. It's mainly been classic Australian films for us, but we're now opening the doors to a lot more international opportunities and trying to restore more international films, and working as well with a team in New Zealand. Really, it's Peter Jackson's team who, you know, obviously restored Get Back and They Shall Not Grow Old, and I think he was involved in The Abyss and a lot of other releases, but working with their post house team to restore and more releases into 4K and HDR and everything. So we're excited to go further down that route.
Speaking of Peter Jackson, this is probably something either you can't talk about or you have no knowledge of, because I think there are so many people out there for the longest time that have wanted a home release of some of his older films, the ones that he made in New Zealand, the Bad Taste, the Meet the Feebles, all that great content he made. Do you have any idea as to why that stuff is so hard to get any type of like movement on for Blu-ray or 4K?
I'm just trying to think how I do know about stuff,
right?
But essentially, Peter owns the films.
Yep.
He has them himself. He clearly has a company that focuses on remastering and restoring films.
He sure does.
So you can. It's clear, and these films are really his babies. And yeah, I mean, that's pretty much what I can say. And, I've probably said a bit by saying that we're working with his team. Not that I can confirm that we're releasing those films, but of course, everybody's been chasing those films for a very long time. We are quite close and friendly with Shout Factory and Vinegar Syndrome and Severin and Second Sight. And every time I catch up with them, we're always like there, because we're obviously closest in location to Peter Jackson. And we now have a team in New Zealand focusing on actually licensing and restoring New Zealand films. And that's why we're working with Peter's team on restoring some more New Zealand content. So absolutely, we are, having those conversations, but it is a process, and he wants to make sure that it's done in the best possible way. So yeah, well, as soon as we know more and can announce something, we will make it clear, that's for sure. But if we do take it on, we will absolutely go to town on it. We will go, the whole 9 yards. It will be merch and everything.
Right. But that question was not even on my list. And then I heard you were kind of working with that team, like, oh my God. I watched Meet the Feebles for the first time last year because I wasn't able to find it anywhere. And it was randomly streaming on Tubi.
Oh,
just
really?
For free. Yeah. I mean, the print looks terrible, like VHS quality terrible, but at least I was finally able to watch it. And yeah, that movie's wild.
Yes, well, exactly. His films are wild and out there, and it almost set the tone for a lot of New Zealand filmmakers, which is like quite incredible. And yeah, he's Sir Peter Jackson down there and has had a huge impact on New Zealand. If you've ever been there and down to Wellington, it's pretty much Lord of the Rings down there. But there is a process, and look, it's going to happen sooner than later. That's for sure. It's like the final hurdles.
Cannot wait. That sounds very amazing. And yeah, I can only picture in my head what type of release you guys would help put out if that's the route that it goes. So yes, very, very, very cool. Kind of going back to the region side of things on the 4Ks being region free. I know a lot of your Blu-ray releases are they're kind of marketed as region B locked, but I would say every disc I've tried, every Blu-ray that I've tried actually plays in my region A player. Is there a reason why it's not marketed as all regions, or is that I don't know. I guess that's a curiosity question more than anything.
Yeah. It's a mixture. Sometimes, like most of the stuff is actually is set to region B and has been, but there's some who are more open to us, adjusting the region. It's always just a discussion that we have with the licensors, and it's really region B a lot of the time on the case because we are here in Australia. And it's for, a lot of these discs go out to retail and things like that. And there's certain requirements that we have for retail in Australia. But yeah, it's always a discussion that we're having with them.
I'm always just curious on that, because I feel like if more people knew that it was region free and they would 100% know that it would work on their players, you would have more people buy the Blu-ray releases that you come out with.
So I'd say we can't guarantee always that every disc is gonna work. I know that there have been some, like Old Boy. I think the Old Boy Blu-ray release that we did was region B locked, and I think there might be a few upcoming, but we'll make it very clear on our our socials and our profile and our website that it's region B locked, if that is the case.
Yeah. What was it? Last year, you guys started working with OCN Direct, who is a partner company of Vinegar Syndrome. How has that relationship been so far? And was part of that relationship trying to kind of branch more into the US audience?
Yeah, well, so essentially, Umbrella, while we are licensing Australian and New Zealand rights, we also represent a very significant catalog of classic Australian films, and these films we actually represent for the world. So for an example of one of the films that we represent for the world is Wake in Fright, and we're remastering and restoring that at the moment, and will be a 4K release, which we're super excited about down the line. But for one of that, it's like, how could we figure out a way to get more of our films that we represented the world rights to in the US through a partnership? And we had worked closely with the Vinegar Syndrome team and OCN, and that was like a great opportunity to maximize, I guess, Umbrella's brand in the US. Now, I know I think we just released The Tunnel through OCN and the documentary Tunnel, The Other Side of Darkness, and we have plans for more releases in the future. It's slowed down a little bit, but we are keen to get it ramping up again, just because it's been great. It's a great opportunity as well for, I guess, North American audiences to know a bit more about Umbrella and some of these classic Australian films. But you'll see most likely that the OCN releases will pretty much be classic Australian or classic New Zealand films. They won't. It'll be very rare if it was ever an international film.
No, and that's smart. And as a company, at least through your Umbrella brand, you're putting out a lot of the classic Australian films, as well as just films that come out like your kids or your Super Mario Brothers, that type of thing. How important is it to Umbrella as a company to kind of preserve these Australian films? I just got done watching the Razorback 4K that you guys put out, and I thought quality wise it looked very, very sharp. That's one thing that I appreciate with you guys, is that your transfers are always very, very great looking. The 4Ks kind of go a step above, of course, but it's nice, me living in America, kind of popping in a movie that I either haven't heard of or I know that is popular in Australia, so I'm going to give it a shot now. I guess, I can't, kind of rambling a little bit here, but the Australian side of things, how important is that to you to preserve that history?
Yeah, it's a huge part of Umbrella. It's not just on physical releases. It's about allowing these films to get the proper opportunity for audiences to watch them, and it's fantastic that we have such a dedicated physical media, I guess, audience and collectors opportunity. It's so great that that's also growing, but it's about the life cycle of the film. And when there are certain films like Razorback or Wake in Fright, but also really small genre films that sometimes people have never heard of, actually being able to go back, find the original negatives and the original elements, restoring and remastering them, and getting them out, whether it's on Tubi or in a festival overseas, and actually just making them widely available is critical to our success as a company and as a brand, because it's about preserving history. If we weren't doing it, nobody else is doing it in Australia, and these films would just be buried in the garage of the original owner or within the archive. Now, there is a government agency in Australia called the National Film and Sound Archive, and they are a huge archive that have the original film reels and a lot of different original elements from films from, honestly, the 30s up. And we work pretty closely with them in terms of getting the materials out. And they, every so often, they will maybe restore a movie a year, but it's a very, very expensive process for them and very timely. I think they may have at some point done Priscilla. That might have been the most recent one. But for us, we can do it, with the original filmmakers at a fraction of the cost, a fraction of the time, and have distribution. So ensuring that we can do the physical release in Australia, potentially in US, and then also sell it to other distributors around the world, other UK distributors, other US distributors. So you can see there might be certain films like Wake in Fright and Stone and Razorback that are landing with other distributors around the world. And that's because we're actually actively selling these films to other distributors, not just for physical rights, but for theatrical rights and online rights and things like that.
Yeah, just kind of pushing Australian history to kind of anybody who's interested, which is a
Yeah,
great mission statement to have. Yeah,
absolutely. It's about making it available, and inviting new audiences to check out these classics, just so they're not lost and hard to find.
right. Well, you guys, I like how you guys kind of preserve Australian history, but you're also putting out new titles that Australia is making currently. One of the box sets I wanted to show off again was Talk to Me. This was a pretty big phenomenon when it kind of came out here in the horror community, just because it felt fresh and original and like a new voice was being heard finally. You guys put this out in theaters in Australia, correct? You helped distribute that?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Well, even with that, so there is obviously the classic side to Umbrella that focuses on the library side of films, but there is a whole other side of Umbrella that focuses on new release films. And for the example of Talk to Me, I'm actually an executive producer on the film. We've been involved in that film since it was just a script with the original creatives. And so working through that whole process of working to get that film financed and assisting with government funding and lots of different ways to get that film made. And so we're there always for distribution. And yeah, it was a huge hit.
That's got to be a great feeling just to be there on the ground floor and just seeing the success, like the rocket ship it had on it.
Yeah, it was incredible. I was there in Sundance at the world premiere, and having Ari Aster walk up to the directors and just go, "Wow, this, Talk to Me just blew me away." It was like, okay, I think we're onto something pretty special here. And then, the few days later, there was just the bidding war between all the different distributors and it landing with A24 and then us working with A24 on the film. It's been, a roller coaster. And then I think, it's huge theatrical success in the US and for us in Australia has just been so great. And it's super exciting within the Australian filmmaking community that there is those films that have that potential. I mean, horror is always, something that's fantastic for the cinema, and people love horror. And it's sometimes, it's a bit of a circle in terms of people sort of forget how impactful horror can be in the cinema, and that horror itself is the star, the genre is the star. So it was great to be part of that whole process and how exciting things have become. And now it's sort of happening again with the film Late Night with the Devil. Is another one that we've been involved with for a very long time, and even being there on set when they were shooting it here in Melbourne was just so much fun. And David Dastmalchian was incredible, and the potential that the directors, the Cairns brothers, have had, and it being such a success for IFC and Shudder, it just continues to open doors for high concept, fun, entertaining genre films.
Yeah, I want to say it's the biggest success that IFC Films has had theatrically, which is just at least in the US. It's very great to hear, and I have not yet seen it yet, but I've heard nothing but phenomenal things about it, and I'm kind of like foaming at the mouth to do so.
Yeah, well, we've got a very fun Late Night with the Devil physical announcement coming soon.
Heyo, let's go. Very good.
Yeah. There is a lot of assets and a lot of different stuff that they made for that film that is going to be a lot of fun working with. And so I think that announcement's happening next week or the week after. It's pretty soon.
Sure. Very exciting. Got a little exclusive here. That's always nice to see. Maybe I'll poke a little bit more. I know that there's a prequel in the works here. They already filmed the prequel. Do you have any news on the front of the Talk to Me prequel?
So essentially what happened is they shot a prequel web series. So as you may know, the directors have a huge YouTube channel called the Racka Rackers, and that's how they always started. They shot a little prequel on set during the production, but essentially it's been shelved. And we wanted to put it on our physical release, but I don't think it's ever going to be seen. And yeah, it's because it ended up being quite different to the tone and style of Talk to Me that it it was decided, let's just put that to the side for now. However, they are working on a sequel to Talk to Me, which was announced, I think,
with the handbook moving into the 2. Great marketing.
And so I know that they're working on that script at the moment, but they're actually going to shoot another movie in between. They're going to shoot another movie before they work on the sequel.
Another one in the horror realm? Or are they trying to go back
another
to
one in the
roots?
horror realm? I don't know. I probably shouldn't be saying that, but because I just realized that nothing's really come out about that. But they are working on another movie.
There we go. Okay, I'll try to go off the reins on pressing you. I didn't mean to make this a 20.
No, it's okay. It's my fault. I've said it now, so I'll stick with it.
Well, kind of sticking with the acquisition side of things. What is an average day like in that area? Because I have no idea how that would go. Like, do you try to find film? How do you find films that are interesting to you? Is just a lot of watching and research on your end?
Yeah, so it's a process. There's a lot of different ways we're looking at films. So if I'm thinking about new release films, we attend a lot of the festival markets that happen each year. So you start usually with Sundance, and there's Berlin, and then there's Cannes, which is coming up in May. So I'll be going there. And when they announce certain films, we catch up with different sales agents and understand their slate, the films that they're working on, and try to get involved early. So that's probably more from the international new release perspective, and also just watching, checking in with different producers, getting sent screeners and reviewing scripts and things like that. And then from the Australian side, pretty much I'd say 95% of the new release content we work through is all from a script level. So we get in very early, and just a lot of reading scripts. It's a lot of people pitched it directly to us because of our involvement with films like Talk to Me and Late Night.
Sure.
And so a lot of horror stuff has come through, but there's a lot of other films that we've been working on. And sometimes films take, 2, 3, 4, 5 years to get financed, to get made. And then there's that whole process. So a lot of reading scripts, a lot of catching up with different producers, a lot of, running around trying to find different creatives, a lot of watching different short films that are out there in the market. So we have a whole team focused on that, but acquisitions is something that I've been doing for a long time. So it's about constant checking in and, trying to work with those creative teams as well. So we set up a production company early last year towards actually producing our own films with the connections that we have and the opportunities that we have. So we're building out our own slate, and that's sometimes when we can see great creatives, but it might not be something that we can produce, but we can help get the film financed and made. And that's when I come on board as an executive producer, or other team members from Umbrella come on board as an executive producer to just help them with the script and putting it together and getting the film financed and casting or whatever it is, wherever they need some help that we think we might be able to help them.
What are some other examples of movies that you helped acquire? I know you've been doing that for a few years now.
I mean, it's in terms of helped, get made and get.
Yeah.
Well, it's mainly the Australian stuff and New Zealand stuff. Like lately, I Talked to Me, Late Night with the Devil. I'm not sure if you saw a film called You'll Never Find Me that went to Shudder.
Sounds familiar. I don't think I've seen it, but yeah, I think I know
Yeah,
what you're
we
talking about.
recently went there and got some incredible reviews. There is a film called Bird Eater that just played at South by Southwest. I don't know, of late. I mean, like from Umbrella as a company, we originally started our theatrical positioning, and our first major theatrical release was The Babadook, and
Mm,
that was our first sort of push. And from there, we became quite horror focused in general. Um, but so we were involved with The Babadook, for example. But there's been other Australian genre films, Relic, if you
mhm.
remember Relic.
Oh yeah.
And so again, working with those creatives, they then went on to make a film called um, Run Rabbit Run, which ended up going to Netflix as an original. So it's usually, if it's an Australian horror genre film, we're probably involved. There's quite a few that are going to come through. There's a film called Demon Disorder, which is a fun demon film that is going to go to Shudder shortly. I don't know. There's probably, yeah, there's quite a few in the works that probably haven't been announced yet that I should not mention.
Right.
Yeah, we love to get involved if people are keen to have us involved. Really,
Sure.
yeah.
Is there a certain side, since you seem like you wear a lot of hats over there at Umbrella, is there a certain side that you like a little bit more, whether that be the acquisition side or the physical media production side? Or are they both
Yeah,
like kind of two sides of the same coin?
yeah. So I'm more across acquisitions and new releases, but I do manage the acquisitions for the physical side. So
Mhm.
I'm running around trying to chase um, different classic films. I work with the original rights holders for certain classic films, trying to work with them on deals. Dealing with the different studios to license content. So that's usually me, but I'm not the one who puts the package together, who makes it super glorious for the buyer. That is the physical team. I leave it in their good hands. But I'm always looking as well for new people to help us put
Mhm.
those packages together, because we do a chunk of it in house, but a chunk of it we call upon what we call as Blu-ray producers, who will just run around and help us put together the best possible package, finding what extras are out there, what extras we can create,
Mhm.
what artwork, what artists should create the cover of this, and who else we can work with to get the best possible value of a physical release product. So we have quite a few different people helping us there as well. So yeah, I'm more overseeing it rather than doing the hands-on on the physical side. But
Sure.
I'm always bringing new content to them, because I try to relate the sort of classic library film acquisitions into physical, as well as into all the other rights and opportunities that there are within Umbrella, not
Mhm.
just within physical, but yeah, theatrical and digital and things like that. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Um,
but it's a big team and we all work together.
right. No, and like I said, you guys are putting out some of the best physical media. One of my questions was like the evolution of your box set. Are you always just trying to kind of come up with a different way to package or material or anything? But I don't know if you'll have the answer to that or not. Just because from like the boxes that I've even seen the past like 6 months, just to that new Super Mario box, it's a new material. It's a lot more sturdy. I just don't know if you have that in mind when you're like thinking of the process of making it or not.
Yeah, I mean, we are always trying to one up ourselves. It's trying to figure out how can we make this better for us, because we are collectors. We sort of cater to ourselves. Like half the time, the acquisitions that I've found have been like, well, I'm a big Blu-ray collector. I have about 1,500, and it's
Hmm.
just like, well, what films can't I find that I want a nice, great physical release of? And then from there, it's like, well, all right, let me just see if I can acquire the rights to that and go through that process and build out the package. And then what do we want to see? And then obviously taking on a huge amount of customer feedback through our announcements and through social media, and we're pushing to go through more engagement in that way. But yes, trying to upgrade the actual materials of the box sets, working with different partners, trying to find who is the best, and continuing to explore new providers of different materials, but
Mhm.
we have some bold ideas to take it even steps further.
We love hearing it.
And we did I think it was a steelbook with Talk to Me,
Yes.
and that was because we actually partnered with the UK distributor and I think the French distributor for the steelbook.
Looks
And
great.
so we
Mhm.
actually shared the cost of, because you have to get something like 30,000 units or whatever it is, and that's just not units that we can do in
Mhm.
Australia or through our web shop. So we share that process on something that is more costly, like a steelbook, but we've got some bold ideas to take it even further with something fun that relates specifically to the film. We always want to bring it back to what we feel best suits the release, and we are also tinkering with the VHS ideas,
Yeah.
uh,
The
because
Terrifier set came with a VHS, the Terrifier.
yeah,
Mhm.
exactly. And so there is one coming up that we're gonna do a VHS release of. So we want to do more of that and try different media. It's about it's coming up with the ideas and seeing how we can actually execute them. There's a lot of ideas always thrown around when we're brainstorming, and a lot of them don't make the cut because it's
Mhm.
like, well, it's going to take forever, or might be extremely expensive and not worth going through that process. But we're always keen to find new concepts to drive the films and do something new that separates Umbrella from other distributors.
Sure. Well, personally, I hope you put more steelbook releases out there. I love how you put like the embossing on the Talk to Me logos, like the lettering and like the border around it. Looks great. But yeah, you just said you're a physical media collector a little bit earlier. Are there a lot of releases that come out in the States, like any boutique labels that you like to collect for?
Yeah, I mean, it's it started off probably with Shout Factory,
Hmm.
because I used to just go to their office and they'd let me into the cabinet and I'd
Oh,
just take everything that I could. That was great fun.
very
And
nice.
from there, it sort of grew and grew. But like Vinegar Syndrome are just killing it at the moment. Their
Mhm.
consistency of releases and the amount of and the breadth of content is just fantastic. Same with Severin. Love them. They're such a pleasure to deal with. We've known them for a very long time.
Mhm.
And Second Sight in the UK.
Yes.
Huge fans. And so like Umbrella in the office, we're also buying Shout Factory Blu-rays and Severin Blu-rays and Second Sight releases and box sets, because we're also just big film fans and big media collectors. So it's working with them and seeing also what our competitors are doing.
Hmm.
How are they improving their product, and how else can we work together? So for example, at the moment, Caligula, I think we did announce it, so I'm happy to say that we've got Caligula, the new ultimate cut,
Oh yeah.
and playing with the other versions of the cut and seeing how far we can take Caligula, just because we know that can have a huge impact. That's been a fun release already to work on.
Sure.
But yeah, it's just depends on the film.
I would say over in the States, the vibe I'm getting from a lot of the collector base is that Umbrella and Second Sight are like you're kind of like going at the same trajectory. Like you're just putting out awesome releases that are packaged amazingly. Do you ever feel a sense of like a nice rivalry where you're just trying to compete with one another, or is it all just like you're all kind of one big team trying to just make the best physical media product as you can?
No, it definitely is a nice rivalry. And like I know Chris from Second Sight really well. And I catch up with him every time he's at these markets where we're licensing content. And I'm always like, oh, what are you working on? How can am I going to beat you to the date that I think he's working on this? And it's like, oh, I get a whiff that he's working on a 4K. It's like, well, how is there a way we can compete with each other? So it
Mhm.
is a nice friendly rivalry, but it really is friendly. We have a very close relationship with those guys, and a lot of the time we're sharing extras. We're sending them extras and this
Yeah.
and that to help
Mhm.
support their release, and we're getting people from their team helping us with our release. and vice versa, just because it is also different markets and different approaches to releasing. But it's fun when it becomes a bit of a race to see who can put out the best product in the amount of time. Because sometimes, it really is just about being first to market. And that's why sometimes you'll see somebody announce, and then like a few days later, another competitor in a different territory will announce the exact same thing, so people can hold out and see who's got the better version.
Correct. Well, you've kind of announced a couple things on this podcast. I'm hoping that doesn't like get other people to be like, oh, hey, we have this in the works. Let's announce it quick.
Yeah. Well, fair enough. Yeah. Well, I don't know. Maybe I haven't stepped on any toes yet, and especially my team's toes by announcing stuff coming up. But I think we're doing a big major announcement of the next schedule of titles. I think next week. So we've got some really cool stuff coming. Some new 4Ks.
Nice.
And some new restorations, some classic Australian stuff, some international stuff. And we've been tinkering a lot more with Korean titles, which has been fun. And they've been working.
My wife and I just watched your audition release a couple nights ago. Very, very yes. Movie's wild. Love to see it, especially in that box that you guys put out.
And we're in the process of doing some more Japanese titles, some more crazy stuff. We just did a big package for some Spanish films. So there's more and more in that process. And then there's still all the classic Australian stuff, the studio stuff, anything in between. But yeah, we're even like looking at some of the releases that we've got coming. We're super excited. So hopefully, everybody else will be too.
Mm-hmm. Do you see your Umbrella increasing the amount of 4Ks that they put out in the future? I know that there's only 5-6 releases that get released in a year. Do you see that number going up at all, or is the Blu-ray kind of the standard at the moment?
Definitely 4K. We're pushing more and more into that space, and we're just, I guess, somewhat testing the waters with different styles of films and different releases, but we want to be, absolutely going more into the 4K space. That's the plan.
Cool. That's exciting to hear. I know you always look at how the sales go, at least I do in the US, and the majority of sales still are DVD, and that still baffles me, but I'm just glad that movies are selling, and I think the longer this goes on, the more people will want to watch these movies in the best quality possible. And I think you said this a little bit earlier. I don't see anything getting over 4K because 4K is already kind of struggling a little bit as it is. So I'm happy with 4K.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just balancing the audience appetite, and the more the audience come through for 4K films, then we'll just release more 4Ks. It's just we work with the information that we have and what will benefit the film, and actually what will get some revenue back to the original owners of the film. That's really important to us as well, because a lot of the time, they have had their film from the 80s go through the studio process and they never ever saw a cent. And now finally, after 40 years or 50 years, they're seeing some revenue generated from a physical release, in Australia. It's great to be a part of, and then we try to expand it even further from there.
Cool. Yes. Very exciting to hear. Over in the States, retail space for physical media has been shrinking down and down. I'm curious how it is right now in Australia, if you guys are seeing similar things happen on the retail space.
Yeah, it is shrinking down and down and down. There used to be sort of two major retailers in Australia and New Zealand. One, a company called JB Hi-Fi that used to do a lot of music and DVDs and Blu-rays and sort of gaming as well. And now they have shrunk their whole movie section, and it's getting smaller and smaller. Some stores not even having a movie section. And now they've started selling white goods. So, washing machines and things like that, and microwaves. And so they've gone into that space. And there was another company called Sanity here in Australia, and they had hundreds of stores, and they shut every store, I think, towards the end of last year, and just completely went online. So retail is shrinking, but from our side, retail, while we work very closely with them, it tends to be a bit of a cherry on top. Our focus is on our web store and direct to consumer delivery, because that whole process of getting stock into stores and them discounting it and sending it back if it doesn't sell is a very timely and costly process. But like, it's not dead yet. It's sort of somewhat stagnant, but it is probably slowly more and more death within that space, unfortunately. But we see that as an opportunity for our direct to consumer position. So
yeah, for the boutique labels, it's sad to see, but it's great for you guys, just because it kind of forces the collectors to shop online, and that's where you guys can kind of show off your stuff without having to charge an arm and a leg to go to retail. So it's a blessing and a curse for you. It's just sad to kind of see it go away, for sure.
No, absolutely.
Well, like you said, you collect a lot of physical media. Do you have any favorite movies that you just kind of put on that are comfort food to you?
Oh, I mean, whenever I'm asked, my favorite movies are probably Back to the Future and Blade Runner. But yeah, I mean, they're probably my comfort movies. They're probably my favorite movies. But I'm always trying to watch movies I've never seen before, and I think that's why physical media is so great at just using, whether it's Umbrella or Vinegar Syndrome or Second Sight, as your sort of taste maker. You can see how much effort they're putting into a certain release, and it's like, how come I don't know about this movie? And then using them to help you make decisions of what to watch is a lot of fun, because there's so many films that aren't available on streaming services and will never be available on streaming service.
Yeah, I mean, me having a big collection here, part of the reason is that I love and miss the rental store days, to where like you would just look at a cover and you would be sold because of that. I couldn't even tell you the amount of times I have blind bought a movie just because I thought the cover looked cool, and I really hope that the movie delivered. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't, but it's always just that like thrill of the hunt. You're always looking for like that next good movie to add to your rotation of great movies.
Absolutely, yeah. And that's why, I mean, the amount of effort that physical, collections and these releases go into, especially for artwork, it's critical. That for a large audience, it's about blind buys. It's going in and seeing that what the release is and how cool it looks, to see whether it'll be up your alley. And I think that's also something that's great for the horror audience. Horror fans just love watching and finding new horror films, within the whole side of new compared to old, whatever it is. So it's a lot of fun.
Yeah. Speaking on the artwork side of things, I know with Umbrella's releases, sometimes you use the poster artwork on your big box sets, sometimes you use original artwork. Is there ever a rhyme or reason as to why you decide to either do the poster or original?
We try to go with the poster on the actual Blu-ray itself, so on the case, and then we try to do new artwork on the slipcover, and then new artwork on the whole collector's case that the slipcover and the Blu-ray go into. It just depends. Sometimes the issue with artwork, and if you're seeing a release from ours that has the same artwork, it's because somebody hasn't approved the artwork. And that is probably from a studio saying, no, you can't do your own artwork or something like that, even though we thought we could and we'd gone through that process. So that's usually why you might see something quite standard across the board in terms of the posters and the designs. It's because we haven't had the approval to make something new, even though we wish we absolutely could have. So that's usually why.
Does studio interference happen more often than what we're kind of thinking, and you're always just going through like the approval process with them?
Yes, it does happen quite a bit. It depends on whether it's, if it's a release that is from a studio production. Usually there's like casting approvals, things like that, copy approval, and more so lately extras. For a long time they didn't care about the extras, but now they seem to care more about the extras and what somebody might be saying on the extras about the studio, whether it's the director or the writer or the producer, who may now hate the studio or whatever it is. They've become a lot more, I guess they're tinkering with a few things now. So at times where it's been a very rigorous process to make sure that with certain releases that we get all that approval on board. And even recently we did have all that approval, and then they turn around a week later and said nah, after we'd already pressed the disc and things like that. And it's just like, well, we have to weigh up what we're going to do, and that probably usually involves delaying releases and, figuring out a way to make it work, because, we don't want to piss off the studio, because they have, massive catalogs of incredible films that we feel deserve these releases. So it's just trying to find the balance of making it all work.
Right. And I get them looking at the studio's best interest, but it kind of still shocks me the amount of effort that studios even put into physical media, just because of the decrease in sales with them. You'd think they'd get a little more lenient on this stuff, just because the amount of eyeballs has definitely decreased on that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, maybe it's, it's just somebody trying to justify their job, perhaps. It's like, we don't really know why they would care, but they do. And it's just, because they're not releasing it physically, and they're happy for us to. I don't know.
Sure. Well, I think I went through all the questions I had except for one, and this is a very random, oddball question, but I know that in theaters you guys helped put out and distribute Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey.
Yes.
How did that process come about, and are you still involved in both the sequel and the entire Poohniverse that has been announced?
So how did we get involved? We had known the producer for a long time, and he had announced Winnie the Pooh, and we thought, why not give it a shot? It was gaining huge traction through Bloody Disgusting and publicity and media and things like that. And it was like, okay, let's see what we can do. And at that point, they wouldn't do a deal with us unless we took on Winnie 1, Winnie 2, Bambi, and Peter Pan.
Oh, they already had this mapped out.
Yeah, they had it mapped out.
Wow.
So we've known about them for a while. And they've announced all of them. And then, of course, when we're on board for Poohniverse. So we're in for the long run. But the first one, I mean, the sequel is so much better than the first one.
That's what I keep on hearing. Yeah.
Yeah, it really is. And it's great. They've tried to pivot to say that the first one is the movie that's made in the sequel. So like, it's the movie that they watch in Winnie 2.
Sure.
And so they are trying to build out the universe now from what the sequel is, not from the original, not from that first film, Blood and Honey. But it's been a fun ride working with them, and just seeing the incredible traction coming out of it. And the new Bambi teaser looked awesome, and so we're super excited about that. But that's all we've seen. We really don't know too much.
Okay. Yeah. So the deer just knocking the crap out of that car. I'm like, okay. if the movie looks as good as this, I'm game for sure.
Yeah, exactly that. It was like, just Bambi needs to look awesome and be aggressive and crazy. And there it was, exactly with the car. And I was like, great, we're in good hands.
Man, with all of these IPs hitting that 100-year threshold to become part of just common knowledge. What's the terminology for I can't remember what it is.
The IP, yes, whatever. Coming falling out of the copyright system.
Yeah, I can't even fathom what crazy spin-offs we're going to get from some of these IPs. It should be fun to watch.
Yeah, I mean, I have been pitched stuff over the years, but it's about how they deal with bringing new ideas to the genre. Obviously, flipping kids and family films into just very dark and twisted horror movies is a pretty clear-cut concept.
Yep.
So I'm sure there's probably going to be more of it. I did see, like, we were pitched the Steamboat Willie version, but there were like
I did see that
four.
too. Yeah.
There were about four that happened at the exact same time, and like that's when it loses its flavor to us. And so we're on board the Winnie train, and we'll see how the Pooniverse assembles. But it was a great timing and a great opportunity, and it's worked so far.
Yeah.
And so we're on board for the rest. But it is its own thing that they've created, and we're excited to see what they do next.
I can't help but giggle like a school kid whenever Pooniverse is said out loud. It's just a hilarious concept even to wrap your brain around. And the first movie was one of those so bad it's good movies to me. Like I did enjoy just how crazy it was. I'll say that. And to know that the actual like scares and production value is like 10 notches above what the first one was, and is actually like an enjoyable film, not just like ironically enjoyable. It's sounds great, and I can't wait to watch that one too.
Yeah, I mean it looks great. It's violent. Winnie and the crew are looking, ferocious and scary and in the best way, and it's just plays with some fun ideas and sort of brings it all home. It's violent. It's crazy. It's cool.
Very, very cool. Cool to hear. I know, I guess one last thing. I know Scream Factory put out a Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey steelbook. Did you guys only have the rights in Australia and they had the US ones, or how'd that come about?
Yeah, so we had the rights only in Australia and New Zealand. And I'm not sure. I know we ended up just timing-wise being, I think, the first to release it on physical in the world. And then I think what happened is the original creative team didn't have a partner on board to do the physical release. But I assume now that they'll be working with Scream Factory again. I'm not sure exactly, but I would say that's probably the case.
I didn't know if that playful rivalry was coming back into play or not.
Yeah, no, look, we should probably have a chat with them to see maybe if there's a steelbook opportunity to do. Although I know we are very close to announcing the physical release of our Winnie 2 version.
Very cool.
Yeah.
I think you've announced all your stuff all the way up to June to this point. So I can't wait to see what you guys have up your sleeve for the second half of the year.
Yeah, well, I think we've done July. I think there's a few. I think the Raid and the Ozploitation.
Oh, that's July. Yeah, that Ozploitation box set looks great, by the way.
Yeah, and after we do, we've been pretty happy with the Ozploitation box set, so we're aiming to do another Ozploitation box set soon, probably later this year, and we're toying with a few different other box sets. I'm just trying to think if there is some titles here that I can say more about. I guess so. Like Joint Security Area, we got a 4K coming that we're going to announce very shortly. The Korean film. There is a bunch more Australian genre films and classic Australian films. I'm just trying to look September. There's an incredible movie called Metal Skin, an Australian movie that we've got coming. Yeah, I mean, if I look at the schedule, it's like 6 releases in August, 6 in September, and October. I can't really mention much about October, but October, there is a big list with some big box sets of some titles that haven't been released on physical that we're going all in. So,
great.
Yeah, we're excited. It's going to be more and more.
I'm excited myself. Like I said at the beginning, you guys the past 1 to 2 years have really ramped up your production game, and every time I see an announcement, your monthly announcements that come out, I get excited to see what you guys have up your sleeve.
Oh, thank you very much. Look, we do it for you guys. It's the passion behind it and the love that we get across social media and emails, and it drives us. And obviously the sales make it possible, with people dealing directly with us through our web store makes a huge world of difference. And the more we test the waters in different films and different genres, the more we can do to make it even bigger and better. So it's great to see that it's growing, and the amount of support that we've gotten over the last year and a half, 2 years, as we've changed things up, has just been fantastic. So yeah, no stopping this train at the moment.
Very cool. Great to hear. Is there anything else that you would like to plug before we kind of get out of here?
No, I mean, at the moment, just check in, sign up to our newsletter on the physical side, because it's going to keep coming through. We are, potentially toying with different ideas of certain films that probably have to be announced outside of our general monthly announcement, just based on their theatrical releasing. And so there's a few that, you have to keep updated on socials. We set up a streaming platform called Bluray, but it's only available currently in Australian and New Zealand for Australian and New Zealand users. And it's a free streaming platform. Just go check it out. It's got a lot of our cult films in there and Australian films. It's got Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Reanimator, Suspiria, all the classics, and a bunch of other stuff. So yeah, pushing forward into that space. But I guess as well, more theatrical films coming through and everything else in between. We'll keep going.
Well, very awesome. Yes. Cannot wait to see what you guys are coming up with for the foreseeable future. You guys, like I said, I've said it a dozen times on here, but I am really a big fan of your company and everything that you're doing right now. So keep it up.
Thank you so much, Jake. No, we really appreciate it. And I'll pass on the love to the physical team. The team it's about 3.5, 4 people who manage this giant schedule. And it's growing as well. The schedule is just more films. I keep acquiring more films for them. And it can be some long nights in the office at times. And that's where we're always looking for new people to help us out. But absolutely. I will pass on the love. Thank you.
I appreciate that. Thanks. And thank you for coming on the podcast, Ari.
No problem at all. It's been a pleasure. Thank
Awesome.
you.
Yeah. Well, this has been episode 25 of Boutique Talk. Until next time, I'll see you.